The SAVE Act is an abomination. It's Jim Crow 2.0 across the country. We are going to do everything we can to stop it.
In fact, one way to prove you're a bona fide person who can have a job is to ask for a driver's license and a Social Security card. This is an anti-fraud amendment.
Chuck Schumer just called the SAVE Act, a bill that would require voters to prove they are the United States citizens, an abomination and Jim Crow 2.0. But there's a video from 1996 in which Schumer himself demanded the exact same thing, and his body language back then tells a very different story, as you're about to watch. Hello and welcome back, my body language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and today we're going to analyze Chuck Schumer's words and body language across almost 3 decades, and the results are very revealing. But first, watch this recent video in which he calls voter ID an abomination.
We've got to get this done, and we've got to get it done very quickly. The SAVE Act is an abomination. It's Jim Crow 2.0 across the country. We are going to do everything we can to stop it.
Notice how Schumer opens with urgency. We've got to get this done, and we've got to get it done very quickly. That rush is deliberate. He doesn't want a debate. He doesn't want people comparing his words to his record. He wants this framed and closed before anyone can ask questions. And then comes this statement. The SAVE Act is an abomination. It's Jim Crow 2.0 across the country. Now, for those of you who might not be familiar, Jim Crow laws were the laws used in the American South after the Civil War to segregate and disenfranchise black citizens. Things like poll taxes, literacy tests, and grandfather clauses specifically designed to prevent people of color from voting. So when Schumer calls voter ID Jim Crow 2.0, he's making a very specific accusation that requiring identification to vote is a racist act. Now, pay attention to this next clip. This is Chuck Schumer in 1996, almost 30 years ago, on the Senate floor. Watch his hands, his posture, and his voice.
Let's admit the truth. Everywhere people go, they're asked for a Social Security card. In fact, one way to prove you're a bona fide person who can have a job is to ask for a driver's license and a Social Security card. This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud.
Did you notice the difference? This is a completely different delivery. His illustrator gestures are strong and precise, open palms, sweeping movements to address the entire chamber. His voice is confident and measured, and his rate of speech is controlled. Not too fast and not too slow. This tells us that he is absolutely certain of what he is saying. And look at his words. He calls this an anti-fraud amendment. He says, let's admit the truth. Everywhere people go, they have asked for a Social Security card. And then he makes this very deliberate pause after saying, whenever we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? That pause is strategic. He's letting the audience sit with the idea that everyday Americans are demanding election integrity. He's not just making a policy argument. He's implying that the people themselves want this. In other words, in 1996, Chuck Schumer used confident body language, strong declarative statements, and a populist appeal to push for the exact same principle he now calls Jim Crow 2.0. And this did not go unnoticed. Donald Trump himself posted this very clip on Truth Social, exposing the contradiction for millions to see. But here's where things get really interesting, because Schumer was confronted with this contradiction on live television. And what happened next is a textbook example of how someone's body language shifts when they no longer believe what they're saying. Think about it. You need an ID to drive a car. You need an ID to buy alcohol. You need an ID to purchase a firearm, or you need it to board a plane, to open a bank account, or to pick up a prescription. But requiring an ID to vote? That is supposedly an act of racial discrimination. But now watch this next clip carefully and pay attention not just to Schumer, but to the question itself.
So, Leader Schumer, this talk about election security has revived discussions of the SAVE Act, which you have said you oppose. Proponents of it say that it's, to have ID, you have to prove U.S. citizenship to be able to vote. Though some of the claims they make, to be clear, are overstated. We know there's not widespread election fraud. But polling does suggest, there's a new Pew Research poll, that 95% of Republicans, but also 71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0. And I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against. This is vicious and nasty. And I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate. We're not reviving Jim Crow all over the country.
The first thing you notice is that the interviewer loads the question. He says, "We know there's not widespread election fraud," before even asking about voter ID. That is not a neutral question. That is a framing device, giving Schumer a soft landing before he even opens his mouth. But even with that cushion, notice how Schumer's delivery has changed. Compare this to the 1996 clip. His voice is less commanding, his gestures are smaller, his confidence markers have dropped significantly, and then he repeats the word discriminated over and over. You will be discriminated against. When someone repeats the same emotional word multiple times in a short span, it is a persuasion tactic. He is trying to anchor the entire conversation to that single feeling. And here's the most revealing part. The interviewer tells him directly that 71% of Democrats, his own party, support requiring an ID to vote. So Schumer has no ground to stand on, and his body language shows it. He doubles down anyway. It's Jim Crow 2.0. This is vicious and nasty. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate. That is not the body language of a man who is confident in his position. That is the body language of someone who knows the argument has already been lost and is digging in because there's no other option. And then we get to the moment that confirms everything. Watch.
Leader Schumer, you recently called the SAVE Act Jim Crow. Can you explain how it's Jim Crow to require an ID to vote in elections, to drive a car, to purchase alcohol, go to the DMV? Any comment on that?
Leader Schumer, you said you're on the same page as...
What do you think? Should we restore normal order in the Senate and actually go back to the standing filibuster?
You said that you're sending a proposal over there.
Reporters catch Schumer walking through the Senate and ask him directly, "Can you explain how it's Jim Crow to require an ID to vote when you need an ID to drive a car, to purchase alcohol, to go to the DMV?" These are perfectly valid questions. He could have doubled down. He already called it Jim Crow 2.0 on national television. He could have repeated his argument. But he doesn't. He doesn't acknowledge the reporters. He doesn't even look at them. Now, his slight hunch and soft smile are part of his body language baseline. That's just how Schumer walks and stands. That is not what's important here. What is important is the silence. He chose not to answer. And sometimes the most powerful body language signal is the one that is missing. And this is exactly how you can spot when a public figure no longer believes their own argument. The body language tells the full story in 3 stages. First, the confident delivery when they genuinely believe what they are saying. Then the shift, the weaker voice, the repetition, the emotional anchoring when they know the ground has moved beneath them. And finally, the silence, when they cannot defend the position at all. You can apply this to your own life when someone you know shifts from confidence to repetition to plain avoidance. That is a pattern worth paying attention to. That is how you spot the moment someone stops arguing from conviction and starts arguing from necessity. I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to sharpen your ability to read people like this, make sure to subscribe. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy. Much love and bliss.